Welcome, Mark. Welcome, Mark. Welcome, Mark,
Thank
to the reflective space. It's lovely to have you.
Yes, thank you for having me, Tanya.
And we've known each other, I think, since 2018 when I found the coaching jungle. And yeah, I also became a secret coach club member for a while. I think I
Yes.
was until about 2021 or something like that. And I've still got those newsletters, which I do refer to from time to time, very
Oh, good.
valuable newsletters. Um, and you've got an extremely large Facebook group, which is, I think, is it 24K? Is that right?
Yeah, it's about 24,500-ish. Yeah.
Wow, wow. So I've known you since like from the first year since I started my business. Would you like to kind of say anything else to anybody else that would be listening into this masterclass? Anything else
Do you
about
mean
yourself?
I'll be humble, you know? No. I mean, I've been in the online space since 2014, so, I've been around for a while and have seen a lot of, learned a lot, done a lot good, and then made a lot of mistakes and hopefully learned from those too, so that's, the life of an entrepreneur.
So it's going to be like 10 years since you became
Yeah.
an online coach.
Yeah,
Wow.
March of 2024 will be 10 years.
Wow. Wow. So
Time flies.
you've kind
It
of
feels like 5 years, honestly, but it feels like 5 or 6. It doesn't feel like 10.
so you've really seen how the online space, all the changes.
Mm,
So I want, because obviously I've seen the online space pre-pandemic. Oh, it was only a couple of years, and then post-pandemic. What would you say is different pre-pandemic to post-pandemic? And especially, I'm kind of gonna like make it a bit more contextualized. Maybe I'm going to talk about running a Facebook group because obviously you have an extremely large Facebook group. Um, what would you say are the challenges now post pandemic?
well, I mean, this isn't a shocker for anyone who runs a group. Engagement has been, more difficult to get here in the last, I would say, 2 years. There's been a shift, versus the
Mm,
old days, and it's interesting because it looked like Facebook was really doubling down on groups. Mark Zuckerberg was buying ads for the Super Bowl, I think, and all this other stuff. And it seems like they're making it a little more difficult for group owners. And I don't know, my guess is maybe they want to encourage people to pay for advertising. If groups a free thing and they don't want groups to get too much engagement, and then people won't open their wallets to invest in Facebook
mm,
ads. But I've
mm,
spoken with a lot of group owners of various sizes, and
mm,
they've admitted that you're getting less engagement of posts or on the Facebook lives that you're doing in groups. It's not saying it's
mm,
impossible; it just means that you're putting more work in to get that same level of engagement that was there pre-COVID.
mm, mm. Yeah, yeah. I've noticed engagement in my small group has kind of really, changed the post reach and yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
you're
but
not
there is
alone. Yeah.
still, would you say this, but obviously it being an online entrepreneur, there is still scope to have a Facebook group, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I've had clients ask me about it, and they say, "Well, should I start a community elsewhere?" I mean, you hear people speaking about School, that's Sam Ovens' platform, or I think he
Mhm,
started it. He maybe moved on now.
mhm,
SKOOL. So I have some clients of doing some things in School or Mighty Networks or one of these other ones. The issue is, I'm still a fan of Facebook groups because people are already on Facebook so often throughout the day, and they're when you take them to another platform, that's an extra step. They have to log in and they have to go there. So it's not the magic formula to say, "Oh, I'll just build a community somewhere else." There's a lot going for Facebook just because
mm,
people are so conditioned to using it. So I'm not
mm,
to that point where I'd say give up on Facebook groups. I think they're great. I would never shut mine down, but it just go in expecting that you're not going to get 1,000 views on a Facebook Live if you've got a group of a couple thousand people. It's not going to happen.
mm. Yeah. And I mean, you also really advocate about growing your email list. I mean, this is the, I mean, I actually, when I kind of came into, um, started my business, it was all about building your email list. And obviously, a Facebook, having a Facebook group is a good way of doing that. I
Mm.
mean, what are the challenges of doing both, because obviously they both require time and energy. Would you say are the advantages and disadvantages of doing both?
I can't really think of many disadvantages. When it comes to email, I'm a big fan of it. You know, you own your email list. When it comes to Facebook group or other communities, that could be shut down, no notice, and then it's
Yes.
gone. An email list, you actually own that list, and it's a more solid foundation. I like using
Yeah.
both. So my Facebook group helps grow my email list. My email list helps grow the Coaching Jungle Facebook group. So whenever someone
Yeah.
requests to join the Coaching Jungle, one of the questions in the membership questions is, or for the requesting people, would you like free daily email advice from Marc Mawhinney to help build your coaching business, or something like that?
Hmm.
And they'll leave
Hmm.
their email if they want it. Well, that's a great way to grow my email list. If
Hmm.
people stumble onto my email list from my website, or if I'm being interviewed for something like this or whatever, the
Hmm.
first email that they receive when they opt into my email list from there, it has right in there, in the PS, it talks about the Facebook group and encourages people to join that. So it's really an
Yeah.
ecosystem where they're both helping the other one grow.
Yeah. And I remember in my first year, I think I referred quite a lot of people into your Facebook group.
Well,
And I
thank you.
remember you gifted me the daily email course and Facebook growth. I remember Facebook Gold.
Yes.
I think this was
Yeah,
Facebook
that's right.
Group
Yes,
Gold.
Facebook group
Yeah.
goals.
Yeah. And
Well,
so
funny story for anyone naming a program. I originally called it Facebook Group Gold, and I got a not so nice letter from Facebook, or email, because of course the I was using Facebook in the title of the program,
yeah,
in the URL. I had
yeah,
facebookgroupgold.com, and they're very protective of that. Same with LinkedIn and with all those other ones. So I changed the name of it
yes,
to Group Gold, basically.
yeah.
But there's a lesson for anyone naming something. If you have Facebook in the URL, the program title, you're probably going to get dinged.
Yeah, I mean that I mean, so I've learned a lot about, like how to grow your and how to grow a Facebook group, but it's also about nurturing. I mean, having a Facebook community, it's
Hmm.
about having a community as opposed to a group where you're just gonna like sell your offers. I mean, that is not how it's done. Maybe it was done like that 2018, 2019, pre-pandemic, but it's definitely not, that's not the way, is it? Would you agree?
Well, it's I don't have trouble selling to my group. I know selling's a dirty word in the coaching industry, but the way I view it, if you're spending hundreds of hours a year on a free community, and provided that you're giving value, and it's something good there, then I do think you should be compensated for it. But it can't be like the Home Shopping Network where every single post is selling. So I'll give you an example.
Exactly.
Yeah, something happened the other day. Of course, it was U.S. Thanksgiving last Thursday, and I
Yeah.
put up a post selling something, and one of the group members commented, and he said something like, "Really, Mark, on Thanksgiving?" Like, or it just trying to shame me, and I answered with something sarcastic back, and he said a few other things, and I just said, "Are you? Do you troll people on Black Friday sales as well?" He goes, "Well, I just think it's not the right day, that you shouldn't be doing it on Thanksgiving. Wait a day or whatever." And that's the problem with a lot of, well, coaches, but also Facebook group owners, is they're looking for any excuse to not sell. Now it's a little different if I've used this example. If it was 9/11, and that horrific terrorist attack happened
Yeah.
an hour ago, I wouldn't, an
Yeah.
hour after the attack, post
Yeah.
some sort of sale or something for that.
Yeah.
That would obviously not, I wouldn't do. But
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, didn't see his point. And anyways, that I just thought that was funny to deal with that from him the other day.
And it's a group of 24K um individuals. Not all of them are American, because obviously you
Yeah.
you as the owner are Canadian. You have your Thanksgiving is earlier, am I
in
right?
in October, that's right. So he assumed I
Mm,
was in the US and celebrating
mm,
Thanksgiving. But even if I was
mm.
an American and celebrating Thanksgiving that day, I still would have posted it. I just
Exactly.
yeah, it was
Yeah,
kind of funny. But anyways, the lesson I take from it, I can turn that into content fodder because I'm going to share that story in an upcoming issue of Secret Coach Club. I'm not going to use the guy's name or whatever, but it just to make the
yeah,
point that you can't be afraid to sell with it. But to your point, it has to be a balance. So if you're posting a couple times a day in your group, let's say 3, 4 times a day, if you have one or
yeah.
two posts that have an offer you're inviting people to, I don't think that's unreasonable.
Yeah, of course, because it is about being compensated for the time and energy that you place into a group.
Hmm.
Um, and what I love about your group is the fact that you can give value, and because it's so you share value, you share your insights, you share about what it means to be an online coach, what means to be an online entrepreneur. But I remember there was one time that I shared something, and there was this long conversation. I don't know whether you noticed it, but there was this long conversation I was having with somebody who was more of an entrepreneur than a coach. And they started slating me for my social work experience. And they started slating all the social work clients that they're like, I don't it was just, and
What was
it
their issue?
obviously it showed more about them and their
Hmm.
heartlessness than it showed about me, because it was like, I think it was something to do with, I can't remember. It was an extremely long conversation, and I kind of like just carried on with it. No, I didn't take it personally at all, but it just really just showed how heartless they were. And like I just kept thinking, this person doesn't realize how many people are actually reading the conversation, because this is the thing in a lot of online communities. A lot of people read the conversation. Would you think that?
Yeah.
Have you found that in your experience?
Yeah, and I got attacked once for referring to them as lurkers. I wasn't saying it to demean them. I put a post up in the group because a lot of people told me, "Mark, I like your group. I lurk and I read, but I rarely post or comment." So I put a post up once and said, "Hey, for any of you lurkers, don't be a stranger, don't be shy. We'd love to see what you have to say on the wall." And a couple people said, "Oh my gosh, that's such a an insult to call us lurkers," because they try to make sound like I was
Why?
painting them to be creepy stalkers in a bush, stalking with like binoculars or something. That's at
Yeah,
least North American. I don't know about the UK, but what you sometimes it was really silly. So I had to get past. In a group of almost 25,000 people, it's very rare to get 100% consensus on anything. And I've had some
yeah,
real strange comments from people about things. Like if I was trying to offend someone, I could do a much better job. I'd put a post up that really shouldn't have been offensive, and then I'd have a couple people clutching their pearls,
yeah,
and coming at me for it. So it's easier now where I've been operating that group since 2015. And now I'm
yeah,
kind of used to it. But in the early days, I would take it a little more personally, like, oh, geez, like, did I say something wrong here? And, should I
yeah,
apologize? Don't apologize. It's your group, and if they want to leave, they
yeah,
can leave. It's what's that meme? It's Facebook groups aren't like an airport. You don't have to announce your departure when you get people posted
yes,
on a wall to leave,
yeah,
which being
yeah,
dramatic, like it's a really big
yeah,
deal. It's a Facebook group. Just
yeah.
leave.
And the thing is, as when you are an owner and you're the creator of it, that does give you a lot of gives you a lot of power. But I think, as the Spider-Man movie quote is,
Mm,
with power comes a lot of
yeah.
responsibility. And um what would you say is, because there's like different opinions about this, is like, some people have an extremely large Facebook group. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have a large following, because some people aren't very active. But I mean, in running a Facebook group, you obviously need, like fellow admins. And I know you've got quite a lot of volunteers, because it's a very large group that, are like fellow like some people kind of say, look, don't use I don't know, say competitors or colleagues,
Hmm.
use family members, because in case something kind of, goes wrong, how business can be, you've got like family members, helping you in your admin. What would you say is the best admins for a Facebook group
Oh,
if
well,
you're
I've
an
tried
online
it all.
entrepreneur?
Yeah, so on a couple different occasions, I've had large teams of volunteers. I once had a really ambitious plan to have volunteers in every time zone, pretty much around the world. So I had a team
Mhm,
of about 15 different, which got a little unwieldy because what I offered them, it was volunteer, it wasn't paid, but I said in exchange for being admins for the group or moderating it, once a month you can put a promotional post up on the wall. I'll be honest,
yeah,
nice people, but they're out of those roughly 15, there might have been one or two doing any admin work, and then I end up having to pick up the slack. A couple times
yeah,
I've had paid admins, and that's had its own issues. Part of the issue for me now, I kind of combine things. I have a paid a couple team members. I have an appointment setter that's in there as an admin as well that handles new member requests. And then
mhm,
there's a few watching the wall, but 15 was a little too much. So
mhm,
I guess to answer your question, what do I recommend? Don't hire admin if you're early in your journey. Some people
yeah,
try to do it too early. I would say
mhm,
admin or moderate it yourself. And you also
mhm,
don't have to be, I'm a little too paranoid. I hate spam on the wall. So I was checking every hour in there,
mhm,
and that's probably a bit too
mhm,
much. So if you're checking a couple times through the day, it's not the end of the world if some spam stays up there.
mhm,
One little tip I would recommend that you do is set up someone not as an admin, but have them as an unofficial watchdog. Because what some
mhm,
people do when they join a group is they'll block you as a group owner. And
mhm,
this is one of the quirks of Facebook, which I don't like. If they block Tanya with your group, then they spam the
mhm,
wall. You're not seeing their stuff. So if you,
mm,
I have a
mm,
couple unofficial kind of watchdogs in my group that will tell me or they'll report posts that are
mm,
breaking the rules, and those people have blocked me sometimes just so they could try to get around the rules. So when you build your
mm,
community and people get value from it, they spend a lot of time there. They'll want to keep the wall clean as well.
mhm. And you've got, because it's such a large group, you also have a rule, don't you? Like people can't, like, spam you like via, like
Direct
direct
message.
messaging, like saying, "Oh, I found you in the coaching jungle," and
Yeah,
then they start. Do you have a lot of members kind of reporting that? How does that work?
not not as many as I'd like because they'll tell me, but then they confess it's been going on for a while, and I'll have to remind the group every so often, "Hey, let us know if you're getting spammed by cold message from the group because
Mhm,
we can't read minds and I can't see
mhm,
everyone's inbox."
of course.
So the rule that we have, there's been some confusion because I've had people say, "Well, who are you, Mark Zuckerberg? You think you can control who messages who?" And that's not what we're talking about. I get it's social media. What we're
Mhm,
trying to keep it away from is a group being used as a directory where someone's copying and pasting the same message to 25,000 different people. Like you said, if I'm Joe Smith and I send you a message, "Hi, Tanya, I see you're a member of the Coaching Jungle group as well." And then they go into their pitch. Well, clearly they're using it as a directory. Or if they answer, you put a post on the wall or a comment, and then they reach out to you, or they put a post on the wall and let's say you like the post and then all of a sudden they think
mhm,
that's an invitation to start messaging you. We don't like phishing posts like that, so it's all within reason. But it is
mhm,
frustrating that the members don't always tell me. Like some probably just leave the group if it's happening instead of actually telling me or the team so we could do something about it. But I have very low patience for that when I hear someone doing it. Nine
yeah,
times out of 10, I just boot and block them. If it's someone I
mhm,
know that's providing good value on the wall and maybe they just didn't see the rule, I might reach out and just give them a heads up like, "Hey, I understand you've been messaging members.
mhm.
We don't allow that. Just want to give you a heads up." But if it continues, I don't have any hesitation to block them.
And you've got some really good quality members in there. I mean, I found quite a few of my
Yeah.
coaches from the coaching jungle. I mean, and you've got some very established online coaches that have been doing it for 20, 25,
Hmm.
years, longer than you and I have been in business. So,
Well, I'm only
they,
21 years old, so it's longer than I've been alive now. I'm just kidding. Just before we started recording, this will be the humbling moment or whatever. I told you you're dealing with a wrist injury, which is much worse than this. But I've been dealing with an
Yeah.
injured thumb and pinky finger in my right hand for a good chunk of this year that I'm getting physio for. And when people ask me how I injured them, I always joke. I say I saw a woman being mugged in a dark alleyway, and I ran in to save her, and I punched a mugger and saved the day. But the truth is, I was practicing card tricks that had a very contorted hand position, and did it for a few hours one night. And the next day, my thumb swelled and my hand was killing me, and I hurt my tendons or something going on there, and that's what happened. So you can tell that you're getting old, and you're not 21 anymore when you can injure your hand from practicing a card trick.
So were you doing like this really, like the shuffling that they do in like casinos? Were you
I
doing
was
that?
practicing a riffle shuffle, which can be hard on the thumbs, but it was actually something called, I think it's called the snap change. And I know we're not a card trick podcast, but it is kind of funny. It's a trick where you're holding a card and you snap your fingers and the card changes to a different card. And you have to
Mm,
snap your fingers quite hard to make that change happen the way it
mm,
works. And it
mm,
was a couple hours of snapping my fingers, the thumb and my index finger that night, just, while I was watching Netflix or whatever, turning my business brain off for the night. And it was the next day that I was like, "Ooh, geez, something's off there." The thumb was swollen, and then I couldn't turn doorknobs for doors and things, or open peanut butter the jars. It was starting to hurt. So it's been a struggle. Now I'm like, oh my god, that's if you can hurt your hand practicing a card trick. I mean, and I sound like I'm whining because I know you with your injury stuff's worse than that. But yeah, it's the point of the story. I'm not 21 anymore.
mm. And I think when it comes to like running a Facebook group, having an email list, being an online coach, I mean, I remember my first year, no, actually my very first online summit, which was back in a few months before I started my business, back in
Hmm.
October, November 2017. And it kind of like, I remember just kind of like, oh my God, I could do that. That's really easy. I could do that. And then a year later, I was doing my own online summit. My God, I mean, it looks easy, but it's not easy at all. And what would you say are the three qualities that you need to be being an online coach
Oh,
entrepreneur?
boys. Well, I mean, you need discipline because, and not everyone is disciplined, but you have to force yourself to do the work. If you're looking for get rich quick, where you're making seven figures, you're working an hour a week, probably not the right fit for you. So I'd say discipline because you have to be consistent. A thick skin because if you're doing business in the old days, I say the old days, in the 1990s, early 2000s, pre-social media. If a
Mhm,
customer or client's angry, they may tell some friends, family. It might be a little bit of that, but they can't just go
mhm,
on a keyboard and spread it all over or attack you with a few strokes of the keyboard. Now they
mhm,
can, and you're suddenly accessible. You're in the UK, so you could have someone in Boise, Idaho, who doesn't
mhm,
like you, and you said something that
mhm,
they didn't like, or they're just trolling
mhm,
to get kicks, who try to
mhm,
ruin your day. So I would say a thick skin is another one. And oh boy, what's something else? It's not an issue of finding something else, it's an issue of too many things. So
yeah.
yeah, you
Focus.
have well, yeah, focus is big. You have to be able to ride the ups and the downs. Like I would
Mhm,
like to say, hey, 10 years into it, I have no delays, no frustrations, no fall throughs, no ups and downs. There's days when I'm just like, oh, geez, what the heck's going on here? And your day starts off great, and then something happens at noon that puts you in a funk, but then something good happens at supper time, you're good again, you're getting ready for bed, you get an email you didn't want to get, you're suddenly in a bad mood before bed. So that's like Darren Hardy wrote about in his book, The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster. It really is a roller coaster ride, and it can really
yeah.
screw with your brain being an entrepreneur. So I would say that you have to have the proper demeanor, or I guess I would say mentality to be an entrepreneur for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely you need to have a personality. As not all personalities can be an entrepreneur. And I think yeah, entrepreneurship, like with a lot of things, is really glamorized.
Mm,
As you know, my youngest son is an actor and has been
yes.
in a couple of films, and he is an extra, and I ended up being an extra with him in a film. I can't name what it is,
Mm,
obviously, but I I've seen the film industry very close up, being his chaperone, and it being inside a film set is not glamorous at all.
no.
And it's the same with being an entrepreneur. The like we obviously, a lot of us online see the highlights of entrepreneurship, but the actual blood, sweat, and tears, unless you're an entrepreneur, you don't really know that. And I think
Yeah.
that's one thing that I've really learned from you is the hard work that you do, and the behind the scenes that you kind of like talk about in Secret Coach Club, and what you talk about in the coaching jungle, and when I still receive your emails, what you talk about in your emails, because it, that discipline is what means that's how you lead, and that's what being a coach is about. Being disciplined, isn't it? It's about having that, being a disciple. And a lot of us aren't. We don't have that discipline, we don't have that. um and then if you don't have that self-discipline, how are you able to lead? And I think
Yeah.
that's where I feel with a lot of people that suddenly think, oh yeah, I can be an online coach, and make a lot of money. That's where they lack it, and that's why a lot of them, unfortunately, go back to having jobs. And I mean, I've been doing a very demanding job, but I find that having a business gives me a lot of discipline, which I didn't have in my life before. I mean, and gives me it is that roller coaster, I think, that I love. Which, I mean, obviously social work has given me that, but
Mm,
it's that real. I think it takes a certain personality, because you don't have that, those, with the salary, you have a steady salary coming in. But with the entrepreneur, that's why I love entrepreneurs. I have a lot of admiration for them, that you will have some months that there's nothing coming in, and you'll have some months that a lot is coming in, because business is, unfortunately, can be unpredictable. Obviously, the more experienced you get, the more that you really need to know about, things like cash flow, and being able to, at least, live, have some, covering your living costs and things like that. But I think a lot of people come into it with very, would you say they're extremely naive?
well, in some ways, naive is good because if you knew everything you're going to go through, you'd probably be too scared to start. Me, I spent a decade throughout my 20s in real estate. So right out of university, I was self-employed. I haven't had a steady paychecks really since I was working in high school. A part-time job. So for me, I'm just used to it. 20 some years of doing this, but yeah, for the coaching world. This is what I find is most coaches that start think that they're going to be spending the majority of their time coaching, right? Like they'll slap up a website and they'll get the clients coming to them, and they'll be doing 80-20 coaching, 80% coaching, and the other 20% will be a little bit of paperwork, a little bit of marketing or back end stuff. When in reality, that what I mean from being in this, it's the opposite. It's 80-20 or maybe 90-10. The majority of the time spent finding the clients, and if you're coaching 10-20% of the time, you're doing pretty good that way. So that's one big thing that I find a
Yeah,
misconception with
yeah,
newer coaches that
yeah.
are surprised when they get actually into the business.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, unlike social work, you have a steady row of clients coming in. We get hours.
Yeah.
I work with young people in the criminal justice system, so we get hours from the court, or police, out court disposals. So our clients are coming in because that's how it. But when you're a coach, you need to find your clients, or they need to know how to find you. And 5 years ago, 2017, 20, yeah, maybe even 2018. I didn't even know what copywriting was, you know?
Mhm.
I did not even know the term, right? And I didn't even know there's a difference between marketing and sales, that they're siblings, but they don't
Mm.
often get on with each other. And so you can be really good at marketing, doesn't necessarily mean you're really good at in the sales process. So there's a lot of things that I have, had to learn. I might be really good at coaching, does not necessarily mean I'm very good at marketing. And this is one thing, I would you agree, with business, you have to learn by doing. Would you agree?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You're going to learn by experience. There are certain things that I offer in my business now that I had no clue about in 2014 when I started. And then you just find out about it when you jump into the pool, so to speak. You're going to have people ask you. You hear, for example, the same question being asked a number of times, and then you think, maybe you should have a program for that and to service that to help people there. I do a lot of joint ventures. I didn't know anything about joint ventures really in 2014. And I do mine a unique way, and I stumbled across it by accident in 2018. So I wouldn't have known a lot of the stuff had I not gotten started. You just have to jump in. You're going to make mistakes. You always say, throw spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks. What do you enjoy doing? What do you not enjoy doing? And then just go from there. It's like that is saying the old proverb, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. I know it sounds cliche, but it's true.
Yeah, it is extremely true, because I think, what I found with a lot of entrepreneurs, or a lot of new coaches, or people that haven't been doing it for very long, is they're really so scared of making mistakes, and
Yeah.
they're kind of wanting to be a perfectionist. And and you don't need to have all the steps in place. You need to obviously have a message, or a rough idea about who your ideal client is. I've only recently found out who my ideal client is. I had to do quite a lot of experimenting of who I really wanted to work with. And enjoyment, because it is your business, has to be what you enjoy offering, and who do you enjoy offering it to, is really key, because there's no point offering something or working with someone that you really can't stand. And because it's not a job,
Yeah.
it's your business.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to kind of talk about um, email, and having an email list, and nurturing an email list, because, like you said, that is an asset. It's an extremely valuable asset. Um, what I found because I did it like the other way around. I kind of had an email list, and um maybe because it's me, an active campaign, and not kind of really liking it, I'm falling in love with it again, because now what I've got is certain paid clients, which I want to do nurture an email list, because they've already paid, whether they've paid, like low ticket or medium ticket or high ticket. I already know that they are kind of interested in what I have to offer.
Hmm.
But when I came into like email marketing, it was via a free online summit. So I was nurturing, I wouldn't say, I don't dismiss free BC, because I know some online coaches do, but it seemed like a lot of work. What would you say is the best way of building an email list? Because I know you're really, really good at this.
Yeah, I mean, there's many ways to skin a cat. I actually recorded an interview earlier today with someone who I say he wrote the book on email list building because he literally wrote a book on it. Igor Kafetz wrote a book called um, List Lifestyle, or sorry, List Build Lifestyle. My apologies. Um,
Okay.
and so he and I had a really good chat about this, and so there's not one right answer. I mean, I agree with you that people and sometimes I'll say freeple and cheaple, and I say it jokingly, but people who don't want to pay anything or just very cheap. But I have a lot of respect for someone if they don't have the resources who are out there searching for them, as long as you're going to put it into action. If you're just collecting PDFs and ebooks and things in your laptop, and they're just going to
Yeah.
collect virtual dust, then that's something different. But I think if someone's out there trying to find the answers and they're looking at different avenues and opting into lists or whatever, I think it's
Mm.
great. The only thing I would caution against is don't sign up to so many lists, then you got a million different voices telling you a million different things. Find someone that resonates, their message resonates with you, you like what they're saying, and don't pay
Mm.
too much attention. It sounds funny. Don't pay too much attention to people who are teaching you or who are marketing to you. And the reason I say that is Kurt Cobain from Nirvana. I read through his journal. They released his journals, and one of the things that I can't remember if it was as a preface to that journal. Somewhere I read about Kurt Cobain. He said he didn't try not to listen to too much other musicians' music because it would seep into his music, and he wanted to stay original. He didn't want to just be a copycat. And I notice a lot of people will latch on to, well, a good example. I've learned a lot from the guy, but Ben Settle with daily emails. That's how I got started, and I've had Ben on my show a couple times, and I've purchased a number of his products. But Ben has a very certain way of talking, specific way where he'll intentionally misspell certain words, and he has certain lingo and stuff that you can tell that it's Ben's. And I will notice people trying to talk like Ben, and it just comes across as fake and phony. So I just say be yourself. Like, I have a certain way that I talk in my emails, and I have maybe a weird sense of humor, a dry sense of humor stuff. It works for me, but if someone else just tries to copy it, it may seem a little bit weird. So again, that's cliche, but just be yourself.
I find though that you know, a lot of people unconsciously start copying their coaches. I mean,
Hmm.
I think I remember doing that in the first few years.
Yeah.
And I think that somebody pulled me up on it. It was like, why are you saying badass? You're not American, right?
Yeah.
You're
Or,
not
or
you're not
yeah.
American. I think my Facebook group, which you're a part of, has changed its name so many times, but it's also kind of reflected my evolution. It's now called the Space for High Performing Leaders. But I remember there was this one time it was called Burnout to Badass or something, and people like somebody private messaged me because that doesn't sound like you at all, and how could you do this? And I was like, I just think it's a good title, like let's just kind
Yeah.
of, like
The most
but
glaring
it's
example I saw with that, sorry, do you remember the Tony Robbins Netflix special came out in 2016? I Am Not Your Guru. Did you see that one?
ah yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's been years, but one thing I remember about that is Tony, every second word, he's dropping the F bomb. He's cursing throughout the whole thing. And it was like he's trying to set some sort of world record for how many times you could curse in a 90-minute film. And that's fine. He's Tony
Mm.
Robbins. He's earned it if he wants to do whatever. But what I noticed in the weeks after that documentary came out and was popular, that all these coaches I knew that never cursed in their content before were suddenly dropping F bombs. And one of them was like posting things like, if you don't go for your effing dreams, you're an effing piece of garbage. Get the F off my Facebook, like just stuff like that that came across really silly. So for me, like, all my language can be a little bit salty in my content, but I'm not, F this, F that. I might say crap, BS. Now,
Y-
away from my
yeah,
content, I stub my toe, or if I'm talking to friends, yeah, I'm dropping F bombs. I'm cursing like a sailor at times, but not on my podcasts and things like that. So just,
yeah.
if you curse like a sailor, fine, put it in your content. Or if you're
Mm.
like the fairy godmother and you've never cursed in your life, don't suddenly try to sound like a Hell's Angel biker, with your language. It just comes across there's a disconnect there.
Yeah, and I think this, you do learn from your mistakes. I mean, success is a series of failures. And I
Hmm.
think this is one thing that entrepreneurship really does teach you, that, the first launch might not be very good, the second launch might not be very good, the third, but you're constantly learning. And as you launch, you
Yep.
learn. And this is something that like a lot of individuals don't, like stick to an offer because they think that nobody's watching. And I think it's the last 6 months, my content, what I'm finding is, and this is you obviously know this, but I think a lot of new coaches or people that have only been around for a few years, they kind of think if there's a lot of engagement, that person is doing really well.
Hmm.
Whereas what I find is a lot of people are messaging you directly and talking about your content, or talking about, my God, that really resonates with me. And especially when if you're dealing with some very sensitive subjects like narcissistic abuse or anxiety or burnout, people are not going to like publicly share those experiences on a Facebook post or in a Facebook
Right.
group. They're going to share that with you via message, via private message. And I think this is where I find a lot of online marketers, when they try to like sell you how to kind of build a business, they kind of forget that, like certain subjects are very, very sensitive, and you're not going to get that engagement. And this is where, like loads of people are actually watching you. And this is where I think a lot of people forget, because it becomes very myopic. Like, you're kind of on a phone or
Mm.
on a laptop, and you're kind of thinking, the world revolves around Facebook, but not everybody's on Facebook all the time.
No, exactly. It's and what that saying is, you can't pay the bills with Facebook likes. You can't go into the bank and say, "Hey, I got 220 likes on my last post. Here you go," and they'll take care of the mortgage with it. So I don't look at engagement's great. Don't get me wrong. All things considered, I'd rather have more engagement than less. But I've heard stories of Instagram influencers. One I heard of had millions of followers, and she was selling some sort of merch, like a T-shirt or whatever, and she only managed like 5 or 10 sales out of 3 million people. Those numbers may be off a little, but it was minuscule with it. Now,
Mm,
she probably thought with 3 million followers that she would be selling, I don't know, tens of thousands of shirts, and it just didn't happen with it.
yeah,
So there's a lot of people,
yeah.
TikTok influencers, Instagram, YouTube, all that other stuff, that aren't making anything with it. But on the flip side, you get someone that has. I know someone who has a small. She intentionally keeps her Facebook group small, and she
Mm,
kicks people out if they don't engage once a month. And it can't just be a like; it has to be an actual post or thoughtful comment. And she's a
mm,
multi six-figure earner, like business, from that group. You wouldn't think
mm,
with only, I think it's actually a couple hundred people in her group. It's just, it's very well curated, and great
mm.
people in there, great engagement. So sizes and everything.
Exactly. Sometimes quality is more important than quantity.
Hmm.
And I'm just hoping people that are listening are actually, because you've been doing this for like 10 years now. That's a decade. So you've got the experience. What would you say? Yeah, I'm going to ask, what's the low light when it comes to the coaching jungle, and what would be some of the highlights? Because you've interviewed, I mean, I think you've interviewed all the coaches, kind of like I know. You've interviewed
Hmm.
some, what would be the low light for you, and what would be one of the
For the
highlights?
Facebook group, or for just
Mhm.
business in general?
Facebook group. Facebook group.
Facebook group. I would say there's the issue that I dealt with the other day was with people trolling or chiming in over silly stuff I don't like. Um, but that's just the nature of the beast, I guess. So yeah, that it's never fun to have people coming at you over when you didn't do anything wrong, or you don't feel like you did anything wrong. And
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I don't, this may come across the wrong way, but there's a lot of stupid people online, and you know,
There, there are, there
yeah,
are.
news alert. There's a lot of crazy people online, and a lot of people with mental issues, and they got a lot of
Mhm.
different issues, and they're not happy with themselves, so they want to come at anyone who is happy. And that's the
Mm,
challenge: is social media is great for building your business, but you don't want to live on it either. Like, I find the
yeah.
days when I am and on social media more often than other days, that my mood is affected, because it's just seeping in all this. It's designed for people to be fighting and
Yes.
everything. Or if you're having a bad day, a bad month, and then you're seeing all these people who are sharing their quote wins. Now, spoiler alert to this, they're not always doing as well as they say they are, but they're out there,
Mhm.
hey, I made $1 million in this launch, and they post their happy pictures and all that stuff. Then that doesn't help your mental space either. So what I really work on is making sure that I'm spending enough time doing things like reading books, journaling,
Mhm.
stuff that doesn't involve a
Mm.
screen. Because
Mm.
so I'm doing trying to do drive-by postings, I call them. So just like a drive-by shooting where someone shoots and they get out of there. With a drive-by posting, Facebook, I keep it closed off. For example, Facebook, because that's one of my big ones. I'll then go on at a certain time, put my post up, and then get the heck out of there. And then later in
Yes.
the day, I check in on it instead of having that tab open all day long. You're
Yeah.
just not going to get
Yeah.
anything done if you're
Yeah.
jumping to social media and email every 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have a day, I have Saturday, Friday evening to
Hmm.
Saturday evening that I don't do social media.
Oh,
It's
that's
kept
great.
me sane. It's
Yeah,
kept
there's a
me
book. A
sane.
book was written. I forget the author's name, but it's called 24/6 instead of 24/7, and that's what she
Hmm.
does. She has a full 24 hours. I think hers is the same deal. It's like Friday night to Saturday night or something like
Hmm.
that, where there's no
Hmm.
technology in the house. They're not allowed to
Hmm.
use anything. They put their phones in a seal them
Yeah.
away, and the family doesn't
Yeah.
go on. I would love to do that. I'm not there yet, but I would love to have a day a week where I don't even look at
I
it.
still do. I don't do Facebook. I don't do LinkedIn,
Yeah.
but I still do WhatsApp because I have family.
Yep.
Like family groups. I need to kind of, just check in. But I before I was an online entrepreneur. This is before Facebook.
Hmm.
I used to do digital detox
Yeah.
completely, like no screens, no TV, no cinema, no
Awesome.
phone. Um, but obviously, I think after during the pandemic, that was really difficult to do because that was the only way that you could connect to family was via WhatsApp video calls. But
Yeah.
yeah, what would you say is those were the low lights? What would you say was one of the highlights or a few highlights when it comes to the coaching jungle?
I'd say it's the connections that I make. Like I've met so many interesting people. I've done, as of today, 845, I think, interviews for Natural Born Coaches, my podcast. Most of them are in the group as well. So I've met some really interesting people that I wouldn't have met before. Some, are well known or close to famous in our world, and others not so well known, but still interesting. So one of the guests
Mhm.
I interviewed once was Mark Randolph, who's the co-founder of Netflix. And he was actually in the room in Dallas when Netflix was a fledgling, up and coming DVD by mail company, and they wanted to sell
Yeah.
out to Blockbuster, who was the gorilla in the room back
Yeah.
at that time. And I
Yeah.
believe they wanted $50 million, and they got laughed out of the boardroom by Blockbuster's team, the CEO, and everyone. It was just, yeah, a well known story, and it was really cool to be speaking with someone who was actually the co-founder of Netflix, who was sitting at that table when that happened. And it's
Yeah.
kind of like Steve Jobs when he approached, who was it, John Sully, that they recruited to come into Apple, and he had been working that guy for Pepsi, and Steve Jobs, like in a bathroom or something, said to him, "Do you want to sell sugared water the rest of your life?" And that got that guy on board with Apple, and kind of led to his ouster the first time from Apple before he came back. Well, not
Mm,
quite on that level. It'd be like speaking with someone in that room when Steve
mm.
Jobs said that, but to hear the Netflix blockbuster story is pretty cool. So podcasting's awesome. Anyone who can do that, you can tie it into your Facebook group too, because I often interview people inside the Facebook group as well.
Mm, mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love podcasting. I really do. I've
Hmm.
really, since I've started this reflective space, this is like one of the highlights for me when it comes to my business. I love, hosting these master classes. And so I'm really gonna thank you for your time, Mark. Thank you. This has been really very valuable for me, and I'm sure it's going to be for those people that listen to this masterclass. Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Well, thank you for the invite.